Welcome to the Friday Matinee on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.
Buttons, push buttons.
It's not the buttons, it's the knobs in the world. Why would someone
Friday.
Happy Friday. Really quickly, this is a Friday Matinee, by the way, but there is, for those tuning in, there is a 3-acre brush fire reported 5 northbound at Templin Highway.
3 acres.
Emergency crews are on the scene. Moving right along.
So it is Friday, and you know, every time Friday comes, right the minute I open my eyes, put my feet on the floor, I think to myself, what am I doing this weekend? What's happening this weekend? And you know, there's never not a lot to do in Santa Clarita, and we have some of the finest entertainment right at our back door.
Literally down the street.
Literally, it's true, right down the street.
Although, and we'll get to some of the history as well, because it used to be literally, if you walk through the parking lot to the left, it used to be right there facing Railroad. But now, it's right down the street. We're talking about the Canyon Theater Guild. And of course, someone who has been with the Guild for many, many, many years and is now currently the executive director of the Canyon Theater Guild. Welcome, Mr. Tim Ben Boydski. You don't get that. You don't get that on the other shows, do you?
That is wonderful. I appreciate that, George. It's
right.
Wonderful to have the studio audience with us today.
Right.
And
well, we like to keep the people who are walking up and down the streets kind of busy, you know. So, lots going on. First of all, you got 2 shows going. Let's talk about those.
All right. Thank you so much. That's wonderful to be able to talk about what's going on right now at the Canyon Theater Guild. We have 2 wonderful shows. The first is called The Hallelujah Girls. This is a comedy, and it is a great date night. It is a great time with the girls. And if you're a guy, you're going to love it as well. It's about a group of women and a couple of guys that takes place in a converted church. They change it into a day spa, and it is by Hope Jones Wooten Comedy. So if you saw the Red Velvet Cake War or Dixie Swim Club in the last few years, then you'll like this one because it's a lot of laughs. And it's playing this weekend, Saturday night, and then starting next weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday matinee.
So
I like when plays give men an opportunity to have a glimpse into the world of women. You know, they get an opportunity to chat about it.
And this is like for guys who want to maybe. I don't want to say score because that's not what I mean. Score some brownie points, I should say, on the date. It was a good opportunity to take your date
George.
to
finish
this show.
I know the other day,
family-wise, but you know,
at opening night, the loudest laughs were coming from the men.
There it is,
actually, in the audience. So I guarantee it. It's a guarantee that it will make you laugh. I think you'll have a good time.
And a cast of well-known, seasoned veterans such as Nancy Atlantis, Lori Dietrich, and someone you might know named Ingrid is in that cast as well, I believe.
That is true. Ingrid Boydson is back on stage, doing a regular part for the first time in many, many years.
That's true.
It's a family affair. My daughter is running the lights, so
there you go.
It's we're having a great time with the Hallelujah Girls.
And let's throw this out there. You also directed the show.
That is true. I, as the artistic director, and this a couple times a year I will direct, and this is one of the shows that I directed, and it's $17 for adults and $15 for juniors under 18 and seniors over 62.
Which is a bargain, definitely.
Absolutely.
And then there's family fare.
Right.
Full-on family fare with Winnie the Pooh.
Absolutely. And this, Winnie the Pooh, is something that we do occasionally at the Theater Guild. We'll do something that's targeted really for younger people. Like little younger people. And your kids, your grandkids, you'll love having, they'll take them to this show. If they've never been to a show before, and never seen live theater, this is the perfect show to take them to. It was Winnie the Pooh. It's wonderful. It's gentle. It's a fabulous costumes and sets.
There's a lot of philosophy in Pooh that we can all use. Honestly, I think we can all use. It says, I mean, it's for every possible age. And what's nice is you have the afternoons. You can do Saturday or Sunday matinees. There are a number of dates, and then a Sunday evening. It's the perfect way to wrap up the week with a little bit of a family night.
Wind down with a little bit of Pooh.
Absolutely. It's playing this weekend, Saturday and Sunday at 2 o'clock.
Of the Winnie variety. Now, of course, Canyon Theater Guild located just down the street at Main and 6th Street. The reservation line, if you'd like to call right now, 799-2702. Now, I like to think of this as interesting because I still think of this as the new theater because I've been around with the Canyon Theater Guild since I was young and beautiful. Now I'm just beautiful. But I think this is the new theater, but I was thinking today, 15 years that it has been there and open for business and doing productions. The first production, if I'm not mistaken, was the holiday show in the end of 2000. Am I right?
That is correct. We did the first show here at this theater. It was actually Christmas Carol, which we are reprising as the next show in this season is a musical version of Christmas Carol. So Christmas Carol was the very first show that we did here, and prior to that, we were up Sierra Highway, 8 miles from the closest stoplight.
Or some people put it way up Sierra Highway.
But
Just a little bit before you get to Le Chien.
But now you're right here in Old Town Newhall with no, thank you very much, on Main Street. And what's nice is there are so many other things you can do here, and the theater is so beautiful. What I love is it's an intimate big theater, and that you can put on a really big show, but every seat, no matter what seat you get, you never feel like you're missing anything or you didn't hear something. It is the perfect theater.
Yeah, it's nice. It's big enough to do regular Broadway musicals, and we have 281 seats at the theater, and yet nobody's more than about 50 feet from the front of the stage.
I prefer House Right for whatever reason. I just always love sitting there. That's always, and what do you got, House Right? But I want to talk about this because this was a dream that was many years in the making before you finally were able to secure the building downtown, down the street, and actually get it up and running. So can we go back a little bit, a few years? Now, you've been involved with the Guild for something around there, I would guess, something 30-ish years now? When did you first start?
Not quite, but it's getting close.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. The Guild's been around for 45 years. We're celebrating our 45th year of live theater this year. And we started in 1970, and I was not there at the very beginning of the show, but when I was just a kid, I actually did a show there at the end of the first season.
Really?
Yeah, it was called 18th Summer. They were performing at that time in the Hart Auditorium. At that time, the Hart Auditorium had 900 seats, I believe, right around there. And we did one show for 6 people in the audience.
Outstanding.
There were 18 members in the cast. It was a lot of fun. But then I went away and came back and didn't even realize it was the same group many, many years later. And then began working up the canyon, which was a great space. The theater bounced around. The first place, their first home was, you were saying a moment ago,
Rafters.
The Rafters, which is in the old courthouse building, which is just a stone's throw from where we're sitting. And there's a lot of stories out of there because they were doing the rehearsals upstairs in the courthouse, and they didn't have planking in all of the joists going across. And so Carmen Sorrow, one of the founding members, husband Joe, was not watching where he was walking during the rehearsal and stepped off, went straight through those 2 joists, and the plaster came, and the Weight Watchers meeting downstairs got a big surprise.
Ironically, now I don't know. Joe is a rather large man, so can you imagine maybe?
Here's a warning.
You'd almost think that maybe Weight Watchers planned that, to have some sort
Go
of
off the plan.
I had never heard that story. But we were talking about being up the canyon. That's where I first met everyone, and we were talking last week. We had just someone who's going to be giving one free acting class at the library coming up, and talking about people feeling intimidated about auditioning, and are these theaters, are they cliques or whatever? And I will tell you my experience going there in 1994. Hadn't been on stage in a while. Thought I'd try it out. It was August, and the first person to greet me was this very, very nice lady with long blonde hair who was very, very nice. I had no idea she was the director of the play. She made me feel at least a little bit at ease, and that's really, especially if you audition for a show with Ingrid Boydston, she will make you feel like that. But I know that's the case, though, and nobody should really feel intimidated. And we've had people of all walks, people who have walked on. I've been to auditions where they'd never even looked at a script before, and yet you still give them the opportunity to read. I think that's really awesome about the openness of the community theater that we have here. By the way, we're speaking with Tim Ben Boydston, artistic and executive director of the Canyon Theater Guild.
Well, thank you, George. We work really, really hard to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to be on stage if it's something that they choose to do. We do 10 shows a year, so we have a lot of slots to fill. And it is casting we're going to use the best person that's the best But however, that does not mean just because you've done 20 plays, you're going to be the best person for a particular role.
Don't I know it?
And we have different directors. Last season we had 9 different directors. So every different director has a different vision, who they're going to use for what, and we use new people all the time. So
I think it's fascinating.
And they become family, which is really nice. You know,
true.
you embrace whoever comes in. I've had the opportunity to be there, and I never felt that I was anything but welcome. And then once you're in, you can't go anywhere in the Santa Clarita Valley without someone coming up to you going, and there's a recognition and a hug, and it's a very embracing community.
Exactly. And I want to talk a little bit about, because we're the evolution of the Canyon Theater Guild. The first season when I was there, it was 94, 95. It was a big deal because the Canyon Theater Guild had actually secured a grant, if I'm not mistaken, from the city of Santa Clarita, which allowed you to do a fairly big budget production of Fiddler on the Roof at Valencia High School. And that seemed to me to be the catalyst for moving forward and deciding that you needed a space bigger, even though, like we're talking about up the canyon, lovely place, 176 seats or something like that.
About 140 to 150.
But it was still, if I'm not mistaken, a month-to-month lease, so it was subject to change. If something happened to the owner or something like that, you could have been left without a place. So that seems to me, was that really like maybe the catalyst or the beginning of that forward momentum on the changes from like a small group of volunteers really to the organization that it is today?
Yeah, that was really the idea is that anyone who's been in theater or has worked with a number of theater groups know that it's incredibly difficult to keep the theater running because there's really no money in it. And, and it's so labor intensive. There's so many people that have to work on a production to actually get it up on the boards. So you have all of this labor and you can't pay them, or you can pay them very little. So if you're going to offer theater like we have here in Santa Clarita, where you're doing a Broadway musical and the ticket price is $19, top ticket price, that there's a lot of people working for free. Because if you're going to go see a Broadway musical at the Pantages, you're going to pay $100 or more for a seat. So the economics is that it's really difficult to keep it going. And so a lot of little groups will fold. And the Canyon Theater Guild was no different in that they had to stop production 3 times in its early days. Before I came there, they told me the stories about how they used to perform in Saugus, how they used to perform in Newhall, how they used to perform in Canyon Country in a storefront playhouse. And so coming in from a business perspective, a business world, but having a degree in theater as well, immediately myself and another board member got together and we talked with the leadership at that time, and we talked many times, and Rick Huntington was and Barbara Huntington were some of the leaders in the theater, talking about how you have to be careful, because if you don't own your own space, then eventually one of 2 things will happen. Someone else comes along and offers more money for the space, or the landlord stands out beside and realizes, hey, I think I can get some more money here. So they raise your rent.
Right.
And, in studying small theaters, which I did for a master's class at Northridge, went and talked to some of these theaters in Newhall, in the NoHo in North Hollywood, Victory Theater and Actors Co-op and theater in Vegas, down in San Clemente, a whole bunch of small theaters to find out how this thing works and how it doesn't work. And they all said, hey, what you need to do is see if you can, all possible, own your own building. See if you do whatever you can do to try to get your own space. And so that was the objective, and we began to work toward that. And part of that was making the community aware, and also being able to produce shows that produce more income. And that is what a musical does. A musical always produces more income. You can charge more for the tickets, more people see them. It's a great American art form. It is a unique American art form. Right here, the way a musical goes is never done before here in America. And so people love musicals. And so one of the things that we wanted to do was to do a big musical with a full orchestra and everything. And so we went to the city to ask them for a grant to help us do that. And they did. They gave us a grant to help us produce our first big show, Fiddler on the Roof.
And the first one in 1995, because you've done it at least one other time since then. So.
Exactly. And it was wonderful. And that we used the $10,000 to pay an orchestra.
Outstanding.
So
I remember that.
And you built a beautiful space. The theater itself is a lovely, lovely building.
Yeah.
Just the way the stairs go around when you first walk in. It's got, even though it's a small space, it has a very grand feeling. And with the box office and your snack area, I mean, everything about it is just, it's a beautifully laid out space in general. The moment you walk through the door. Besides the theater aspect of it.
Yeah, well, thank you. That's Mary Merritt, the person who did the drawings, in the concept drawings, a very talented woman, assisted us during that period of time when we were looking at it. And she was giving us ideas, and I said, well, here's what I kind of want to do. So I showed her pictures for the outside of the theater from Central City, Colorado, and the mountain towns there, Leadville, Colorado, the Tabor Grand Opera. And I said, this is what I think the outside should look like, because in those days, any downtown that became a certain, they had a certain level of sophistication, they would build a regular theater with opera house and bring in talent from, in those days for what was the entertainment of the day. And so I said, I want the outside to look like that. And so it is kind of patterned, this Western Victorian thing. It'll remind you of some really older buildings in the Midwest and back east. And when you see the outside, the inside was actually patterned after the West End of London and the theaters in the West End, because I had the opportunity to go to London a couple of times and see a lot of theater there. And the insides are very, very warm. There's a lot of the grand theaters there. It's a very nice, warm, a lot of wood, and then they're elegant. So we spent chandeliers and we did the whole 9 yards when we put it together, so that it would be a super elegant place in Newhall, because at that time we were fighting a real perception, because Newhall was at the bottom of the business cycle, as it were. There were the building was actually boarded up. It had been boarded up and earthquake tagged, and when we took it, and so
that's a brave man. I'm going to take the building that's got the red tape on it. That's what I want.
The office building next door, affectionately known as the White Building, had its own set of issues there. So there was a lot that you guys did.
Well, it's such a beautiful anchor in downtown Newhall. It really is. It's one of the buildings you walk past and you are forced to turn and look and say, this is something really quite lovely. So
yeah, and then we were really thrilled about how it came. We really appreciated the fact that the city was very supportive to us, and so was the business community and the people of Santa Clarita, who even to this day, I'll ask the question occasionally, how many people saw shows up the canyon? And there's a lot of people raising their hands. That's the reason why. Then they followed us. They supported us up there. They parked which was a dirt parking lot. It was dirt and dusty in the summertime, and in the winter it was mud,
freezing.
And when it was there and didn't get washed away.
Yeah.
But at that particular thing, they supported us, and they continue to support us. So we're really, really grateful for that. So the city helped us when the redevelopment first came out, and they gave us $1 for each two that we were able to raise and borrow.
Nice.
So yeah,
nice.
And there you have it. Canyon Theater Guild, Hallelujah Girls, playing through October what?
31st?
October. The Hallelujah Girls is going to have an extended date on November 1st.
Oh.
There you go. But even still, reserve early, reserve often. Also, Winnie the Pooh as the family show that is running concurrently afternoons.
Yes.
Hallelujah Girls in the evening. You got audition notices. You want to go and sign up for the email list. You can get audition notices if you want to learn how, or you want to be in a show, or at least audition for one. Also, check out everything that they have at the website, canyontheater.org, theatre.org, because there's also after-school programs for children, summer youth workshops, and also, if I'm not mistaken, do you still do the homeschool type during the day type?
We do.
I see them in the afternoon.
So there you have it. So stuff for your kids to do to keep them off the streets. Always a pleasure, Mr. Boydston, to have you here, and continued luck, and may there be at least another 45 years, if not more, of happiness and success at the Canyon Theater Guild.
Thank you, George. Can't wait to see you on stage.
Thank you. And I want to remind you real quick, we got just a little note from the news department. The entire northbound freeway is at the northbound 5, shut down at Templin Highway due to that fire that obviously is growing from 3 acres. We'll have more on that when we come back from the break. This is the Friday Matinee on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.